Kolbe. He was canonized in our lifetime, but it's good to just kind of do a little review of his biographical information. Maximilian Kolbe was born January 8, 1894 in the Kingdom of Poland, which was then part of the Russian Empire. His father was an ethnic German, and his mother was Polish. He had 4 brothers. Kolbe's life was strongly influenced in 1906 by a vision he had of the Virgin Mary. And as he later described the incident, that night I asked the Mother of God what was to become of me. She then came to me holding 2 crowns, one white and one red. She asked me if I was willing to accept either of these crowns. The white one meant that I should persevere in purity, and the red that I should become a martyr. I said that I would accept both of them. In 1907, Kolbe and his elder brother Francis joined the conventual Franciscans. In 1910, he was allowed to enter the novitiate, where he was given the religious name Maximilian. He professed his first vows in 1911 and his final vows in 1914. Kolbe was sent to Rome in 1912, where he attended the Pontifical Gregorian University. He was active in the consecration and entrustment to Mary. During his time as a student, he witnessed violent demonstrations against Popes St. Pius X and Benedict XV in Rome during an anniversary celebration by the Freemasons. According to Kolbe, by the Freemasons. Soon afterwards, on October 16, 1917, he organized the Militia Immaculata, Army of the Immaculate One, to work for the conversion of sinners and enemies of the Church, specifically the Freemasons. In 1918, Kolbe was ordained a priest. In 1919, he returned to the newly independent Poland, where he was active in promoting veneration of the Immaculate Virgin Mary. He was strongly opposed to leftist movements, in particular communists. From 1919 to 1922, he taught at the Krakow Seminary. Around that time, as well as earlier in Rome, he suffered from tuberculosis, which forced him to take a lengthy leave of absence from his teaching duties. In January 1922, he founded the monthly periodical Knights of the Immaculate, a devotional publication. From 1922 to 1926, he operated a religious publishing press. As his activities grew in scope, he founded a new conventual Franciscan monastery near Warsaw, which became a major religious publishing center. A junior seminary was opened there 2 years later. Between 1930 and 36, Kolbe undertook a series of missions to East Asia. At first, he arrived in Shanghai, China, but failed to gather a following there. Next, he moved to Japan, where by 1931 he founded a monastery at the outskirts of Nagasaki. It later gained a novitiate and a seminary, and started publishing a Japanese edition of the Knights of the Immaculate. The monastery he founded remains prominent in the Roman Catholic Church in Japan. He built the monastery on a mountainside that, according to Shinto beliefs, was not the site best suited to be in harmony with nature. But when the atomic bomb was dropped in Nagasaki, Kolbe's monastery was saved because the other side of the mountain took the main force of the blast. In mid-1932, he left Japan for Malabar, India, where he founded another monastery. Eventually, his poor health forced him to return to Poland in 1936. 2 years later, he started a radio station because he held an amateur radio license. After the outbreak of World War II, which started with the invasion of Poland by Germany, Kolbe was one of the few brothers who remained in the monastery, where he organized a temporary hospital. After the town was captured by Germans, he was briefly arrested, but released. He refused to sign a statement which would have given him rights similar to to those of German citizens in exchange for recognizing his German ancestry. He refused. Upon his release, he continued to work at his friary, where he and other friars provided shelter to refugees from Greater Poland, including 2,000 Jews whom he hid from German persecution in their friary. Kolbe also received permission to continue publishing religious works, though significantly reduced in scope. The monastery thus continued to act as a publishing house, issuing a number of anti-Nazi German publications. In 1941, the monastery was shut down by the German authorities. That day, Kolbe and 4 others were arrested by the German Gestapo and imprisoned. On May 28th, he was transferred to Auschwitz. Continuing to act as a priest in the death camp, Kolbe was subjected to violent harassment, including beatings and lashings. Once he had to be smuggled into a prison hospital by friendly inmates. At the end of July 1941, 10 prisoners had escaped from the camp, prompting the deputy camp commander to pick 10 other men to be starved to death in an underground bunker in order to deter further escapes. When one of the selected men cried out, "My wife, my children," Kolbe volunteered to take his place. According to an eyewitness, an assistant janitor at the time, in his prison cell, Kolbe led the prisoners in prayer to Our Lady. Each time the guards checked on him, he was standing or kneeling in the middle of the cell, looking calmly at those who entered. After 2 weeks of dehydration and starvation, only Kolbe remained alive. The guards wanted the bunker empty, so they gave him a lethal injection of carbolic acid. Kolbe is said to have raised his arm and calmly waited for the injection. He died on August 14th. His remains were cremated on August 15th, the feast day of the Assumption of Mary. He was canonized as a saint by Pope John Paul II on October 10th, 1982. Upon canonization, the Pope declared Maximilian Kolbe a martyr of charity. At his canonization, Pope John Paul II said, "Is not the death of Kolbe a spontaneous act of love in fulfillment of the words of Christ? Does not his death make him like Christ, the model of all martyrs? Does not his death possess a penetrating eloquence for our age? Does not his death give authentic witness to the Church in the modern world? Therefore I have decreed that Maximilian Maria Kolbe, who after his beatification was venerated as a confessor, shall now be venerated as a martyr. Precious in the eyes of the Lord is the death of his faithful ones." Amen.